All right, this is incredible, guys. We got to talk about this. This is wild. Listen to this. Republican senators put a provision in the appropriations bill, so to reopen the government, to let themselves sue for millions in taxpayer money over January 6 wiretaps. If Trump's DOJ doesn't fight them, they just get a bunch of money, like an earmark, but it goes to them personally. So this is in the New York Times piece. Because the provision is retroactive to 2022, it would appear to make eligible the 8 lawmakers whose phone records were subpoenaed by investigators for Mr. Smith, that's Jack Smith, as he examined efforts by Trump to obstruct the results of the 2020 presidential election. Each violation would be worth at least $500,000 in any legal claim, according to the bill language. The bill would also sharply limit the way the government could resist such a claim, taking away any government claims of qualified or sovereign immunity to fight a lawsuit over the issue. The Republican senators whose phone records were subpoenaed as part of the investigation were Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Marsha Blackburn, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming. Representative Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania also had his phone records subpoenaed, but would not be eligible because he is a member of the House. So quite literally what we're talking about here is senators who helped plan out the attempt to steal the 2020 election. Because they did that, and because the feds were onto them, they would get to rob taxpayers and pay themselves $500,000 apiece. This is mental. This is mental. This is absolutely mental. So let me continue here with this thread. Aaron Fritchner says, apologies, correcting a misstatement of fact in the original post. These were not wiretaps of the senators. It was basic phone record data. Who called what number for how long, not call contents. Misleading to call that a wiretap. My bad. So in other words, that was the Republican propaganda. They're probably, you wiretapped our phones illegally. Well, it wasn't a wiretap. And also, no, it's because there was reason to believe that you were doing things that were illegal. If you have Trump and his allies plotting a fucking coup, plotting January 6th, doing the fake elector slates, I would hope that there's people in the intelligence agencies going, we better keep a record on this in case shit goes sideways. By the way, remember, Trump, even after the violence on January 6th, he was making phone calls telling politicians, do not certify Joe Biden as the winner. They meant it. They were going for it. They were going to steal it. They were trying to steal it in every way imaginable. And so now they get caught, and now it's like you get rewarded for being a criminal. You get rewarded for engaging in a conspiracy. That's insane. That's insane. But what do you expect? This is the same guy who pardoned over 1,000 January 6ers, many of them violent criminals, many of them assaulted cops, many of them literally went on to do fredophilia or do violence since Trump freed them. Like, this is who we're dealing with. Of course, the same guy who pardoned fucking George Santos, who's committed like a dozen crimes before fucking lunch. Yeah, they're gonna be totally cool with this. They're gonna love this. Politico is reporting Senate Majority Leader John Thune inserted the provision which could allow payouts of millions in taxpayer money to Republican senators in his conference. Also adding to the above list, Ted Cruz says he is eligible. Now remember, Ted Cruz was asked by Trump, hey, would you defend me in a lawsuit trying to get me to stay in power? And Ted Cruz had said yes. Ted Cruz knows that Trump lost that election, but he said, yes, I will defend you in court and argue that you should stay in power even though you lost the election. These people are unscrupulous. These people are fucking demonic. These people hate democracy. They don't like democracy. They don't agree with democracy. Side note, incredible senating here as senators make this applicable just to them, not House members. Yeah, that is something too, isn't it? That is something. So here's a quick breakdown from Sawyer Hackett. He explains everything we just walked through.
The deal to end the shutdown just paved the way for 8 Republican senators to get paid $500,000 each for helping Trump try to overthrow the government. Yesterday, the Senate passed a bill to reopen the government after 8 Democrats made a shitty deal with Republicans, and people are pissed at them and at Chuck Schumer. But we just got one more reason to be angry. Because tucked away in the legislation to fund the government was a little provision slipped in by Majority Leader John Thune with Schumer's blessing. Basically, it gives senators the ability to sue for up to $500,000 if federal investigators seize their phone records without notifying them, which is exactly what happened in 2020 when Special Counsel Jack Smith subpoenaed phone records for 8 Republican senators who were working with Trump to overturn the 2020 election on January 6th. But here's the thing. They wrote the provision to be retroactive, meaning those same senators who colluded with Trump can now cash in for $500,000 each. And just to be clear, these senators weren't wiretapped. Investigators simply looked at their call logs to see who Trump and his allies were coordinating with to block the certification of the election, which Trump would have been convicted for if he wasn't reelected. So now, those senators, which include Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, and others, want taxpayers to pay them $500,000 apiece for their role in an illegal scheme to overturn our elections, which, by the way, is exactly what Trump is doing by forcing his DOJ to pay him a $230 million settlement. Who knew insurrection could be so profitable? And to add insult to injury, Chuck Schumer knew about this. He negotiated the bill directly with John Thune. We need to get the word out about this, so share this video and follow me to stay in the loop.
Schumer's got to go. Schumer's got to go. And by the way, this is not an administration. Stop calling this the Trump administration. This is a regime. This is a regime. They're criminals. This is a mafia. This is a mob. This is a cartel. These are gangsters, is what they are. And when you hear a story like this, who can defend this on the merits? There's literally nobody who can defend. You can't even come close to making a sound, believable argument that this is okay on the merits. By the way, Merrick Garland, how do you feel? How do you feel fucking dragging your feet and getting us to this point? How do you feel about that? I mean, this guy should have been fucking locked up. He should have been locked up. But no, everybody dragged their feet, waited too long, tried him too late. And then now we're dealing with this. Now we're dealing with the fallout. By the way, remember, Trump pardoned, I think it was 79 different people who were directly involved in the illegal conspiracy to overturn the election and keep him in power. He just pardoned them. And he did it immediately after Democrats caved in the shutdown fight. That's when he did it, knowing it would be buried behind the news of the shutdown being over. Every part of this has been meticulously planned out. And still, I've never, to this day, I've still never heard a reasonable argument as to why the fake elector slates that they did were okay. That alone should have gotten him fucking a decade in prison. When you know we didn't win the election, you know I got these people who are just going to pretend to be the real electors when they're not. They're fake electors. That alone shows the criminal intent that was expressed on January 6th with all the violence. That alone proves that they were going for the whole thing. In fact, we should consider ourselves lucky they didn't declare martial law and seize the fucking voting machines and even go further, right? But here we are. So now, if you were a criminal, if you did the illegal and unethical shit, now, congratulations. If you're in the Senate, you get $500,000 for that. Can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine robbing taxpayers? By the way, just froze the food stamp money for 42 million Americans as he gave $40 billion to Argentina, has billionaire feasts at Mar-a-Lago, and now, while Americans are starving, let me give $500,000 apiece to all of my allies, my Republican allies in the Senate, who try to help me commit a crime and end democracy and go full fascist and steal the election. There are no words for how low this is. This is as low as it gets. I say that, but then they'll find a way tomorrow to go even lower. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.